Would Klint Kubiak's departure be a plus or a minus for the New Orleans Saints, ladies and gentlemen? So in today's video, we're going to talk about how throughout this coaching search and all the excitement for the future of the New Orleans Saints, or that next chapter of the New Orleans Saints, we've kind of lost what we have, right? Like the question about Klint Kubiak, I've raised quite a few times of, do we really want to lose him? Do we really want to lose Kubiak? Or, the more that people say, well, I want a young offensive-minded coach from the Shanahan tree. It's like, well, you sound like you're describing Kubiak. So should there be a more conversation about trying to keep Kubiak, or potentially if the young offensive coach that everyone wants is actually in the building? So we're going to listen to Nick and Mike talk about that, and we're going to react along the way.
How do you feel about Kubiak if he were to go? He got a second interview in Seattle. A couple other people are getting second interviews there, so he's definitely a finalist for it. But I don't know if it's fair to say that he's the front runner. But if he leaves, how do you view it?
Well, all right. If I was Kubiak, I'd leave. No doubt about it. You're in a very volatile, up in the air situation. You know that more than likely you are not going to be retained. It's basically like Mike McCarthy is the only person they could hire where you probably even have a chance to be retained. Maybe Aaron Glenn. But I'm going. If I have a chance to go to Seattle, or if I have a chance to go somewhere else, if I'm Kubiak, I'm taking the job. So I wouldn't blame him for leaving. I think Klint Kubiak did a much better job than people want to give him credit for, because the Saints seemed so bad. And they were bad. And they were boring and all this other stuff, or not boring, but they were irrelevant and all this. They were 5-12, no doubt about it. But when you look at what he delivered in his first year with a horrible hand, like you talk about the worst situation possible, you got your offensive line goes down, your running back goes down, your wide receivers go down, your quarterback goes down twice. Like all this stuff happened. And even throughout all of that, let's take a step back and look at what Kubiak delivered. We knew no matter what, he was going to make the running game better. That happened. Alvin Kamara, if he doesn't get hurt, gets his first 1,000-yard season. Kamara, at the beginning of the year, looked like he was having a full-on renaissance, and in a way, he was. Like Kamara was inching back into the conversation of, man, this is a franchise running back. This is a guy you can really put the team on. And Kubiak was a big part of that, obviously, in the system. And we knew that was going to happen, and it came to fruition. Kubiak also fixed the offensive line. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Like the scheme, the system, the players he got, and where he put them, and what he asked them to do. Talise Fuaga, all team, or all rookie team, according to ESPN.com, absolutely got the most out of him. Got the most out of Trevor Penning, something that we thought was impossible, something we thought we would never see. Made Penning not only a pro, but a average pro. Like at times, okay. At times, kind of decent. I would say he got a lot out of a fifth-round rookie quarterback. Spencer Rattler, by no means was he supposed to play, and Kubiak at times had him playing pretty well too. Now, and then the Saints also had the 14th ranked rushing yards per game in the NFL, which is kind of surprising for as bad as the offensive line was, the injuries they had, and also the fact that they were 5-12 and they were losing most of the games. Now, he's not Bill Walsh, all right? Like, Kubiak's not perfect. What I would say his negatives is that if his plan ain't working, it ain't going to work, and that's it. And I think sometimes he got a little too conservative. Sometimes he kind of shut it down a little bit. Like Sean McVay's a really good example of, it actually reminded me a lot of Sean McVay early on. Bill Belichick famously in the Super Bowl kind of embarrassed Sean McVay, and McVay in that moment could not figure it out. He couldn't adjust. He couldn't get better. And then he kind of changed his entire career. And Sean McVay is one of the best coaches, I think, at making those adjustments and figuring out how to adapt his game plan. Kubiak didn't do that this year. If Kubiak couldn't run on first down, second down, we were screwed. If he had to go to an alternative kind of way to win, there was no alternative way to win. If you let Kubiak do what he wanted to do, he was as good as it gets. But unfortunately, in the NFL, it is about adjustments, and he just couldn't make them. So if the defense adjusted to him, he was cooked. Game was over. So overall, though, I think Kubiak was really good. First time, OC, first time with this team, first time with this roster. And then, of course, the injuries and stuff that he was dealt with as well. I thought he handled them pretty well.
But you made a good point on this, where you want the Saints' next head coach to be like, this guy's my guy. It's funny. I should call up the name. There's a hotshot young assistant for the Lions, right? That some people have speculated Aaron Glenn will take with him. Some people have speculated Ben Johnson will take with him. And then obviously he could get promoted to replace Ben Johnson in Detroit. But yeah, you want to hire a head coach who's like, nope, I got this guy, and he's a whiz kid, and he's coming with me. That's what you want when you hire a coach. So you don't want them to be like, well, I got this job and I don't know who I'm going to hire. I guess I'll keep Klint Kubiak. You don't want it to be like that.
That's exactly what Mike McCarthy would do.
But I do think of Klint Kubiak kind of how we just described Rizzi, as sort of like the line of demarcation. Like, I think you could do worse than keeping Klint Kubiak. I wish he was at least an option for somebody, but I do hope they upgrade. There's still a lot of things I like about him. I think he was dealt a bad hand in New Orleans with all the injuries. Obviously, we've talked about their lack of talent on offense. I think he can still succeed elsewhere, but I do think it is time to try to upgrade here.
I mean, yeah, I guess in a way, like, yeah, you always take a chance to upgrade, but I just think he's one of those guys where he's kind of got everything you want. He's kind of got everything you want in a coach. And I don't mean for a head coach. I just mean like the fact of losing Kubiak as your OC. Like, that sucks. That, and, I made a video weeks ago of, do you think about making Rizzi the head coach just because of the package of keeping Kubiak? And the team is in a rebuilding kind of situation, right? And some of your bright spots, like Talise Fuaga, are thriving in this system. So there is an added bonus to, okay, the system works. The system is working with our roster. So as we rebuild, like, don't we want to rebuild in this system? Isn't this the system that we do want to rebuild in? So it's very complex with Kubiak, because you have like the results of the record and all of that was so bad. But the deeper you get into it, the more you're like, well, damn, I mean, some of this is pretty good for as weak as the season was and as bad as the season was, and overall. But like I said, the running game and the offensive line play and what he got out of Kamara, and just like, I wish I knew what it would look like if Kubiak would have had the full deck. If he would have had the full Chris Olave for a season, if he would have had Alvin Kamara fully healthy for a season, if all that would have happened, like, what exactly would this offense have looked like?
And I think it's a terrible look for an organization if you're not letting people out of their contracts, or you aren't allowing them to go explore other moves after your head coach gets fired, and then you're just telling them, like, you got to stay here, but we aren't promising you a job, so you just got to wait until we run.
Yeah, the Saints are good about allowing people in the staff in limbo to go and see what else is out there
On our process, so that you can find out. Yeah, you have to let him leave, and he might go to Seattle and be great, and the Saints' next offensive coordinator might stink, and it just kind of is what it is. But you got to let the coach build their staff. You can't hold anyone hostage. You can't say we're going to hire a head coach around our offensive coordinator. Like, you just kind of have to start with the clean.
Kubiak is very similar to Derek Carr in how I talk about, like, the offseason, where it's like, I like Kubiak. I think he's awesome. I wish he would stay, but I totally understand if you bring in a coach and you have to get a new OC. Like, I totally understand that's it, just like Carr. I like Carr. I think Carr was good this year. No problems with Carr. Carr's better than Rattler, but I totally understand not wanting to pay him $30 million guaranteed on the bonus and $50 million on the cap. Like, I understand all that. I understand the business side of things. It just sucks that Kubiak got wrapped up in this, because he was something that we all wanted, like this outside voice, outside offense, new tree, new scheme, new system, fits today's NFL, innovative, all that stuff, fits our roster. We see it, works exactly how we thought it would work. I mean, exactly how we thought it would work. And then, even though it was good, even though it worked, even though it was refreshing, even though all those things are true, it's just the nature of the beast that is more than likely he's got to go. And if he goes to Seattle, I have no doubt in my mind he'll be very successful. And I think Kubiak is a offensive coordinator in this league. I think he has a system that works in this league and exists in this league and has a room in this, room for it in this league. And I mean, we'll see. But if he takes the Seattle job, I would expect Seattle. I would expect their offense to be pretty good.
Slate there. So Yeah, that's just kind of the way that you have to do business. And I think the guy you're talking about is
Tanner Engstrand, yeah.
Yeah, like Brunel's another one that could go somewhere,
That's
maybe
true.
on that offense. He's actually higher up on that list, I think.
Brunell's the quarterbacks coach.
Quarterbacks
Engstrand
coach.
is the passing game
Okay.
coordinator. Do you want to know who their assistant quarterbacks coach is?
JT Barrett.
JT Barrett. There's so many Saints ties on that staff. The odds of I didn't think about Brunell, Engstrand. I mean, one of them could follow Ben Johnson. One of them could follow Aaron Glenn. One of them could replace Ben Johnson. So there's a couple guys to choose from there.
Yeah. So I mean, look, it's one of them things. I think we'll never really know what he could have been, assuming he leaves, and that's kind of a disappointment because I think there was actual potential there. I don't think he's a
Yeah,
bad
agreed.
coach. I just think
Yeah.
where they're at, you gotta move on, and I want him to move on because again, you said it for me. Like I want to see them hire a coach with a vision
Yeah.
and people that have belief in that
Yeah.
vision to be a part of it, and I think that puts you in a better place than hiring DA and you're trying to cobble it together after the fact and. Like there just wasn't ever like a real plan there with how you were going to make the staff because they assumed they were keeping the staff, but he wanted to make a change. Then he couldn't make the change, and it was just 2 years too late. And I think if you went into it with, "Hey, clean slate, execute your vision straight off from the jump," like he might still be the coach right now. That could have been enough to potentially save a lot of jobs. So you don't want to do it the same way you did it last time. Moving on to our next topic.
I will say, like, and maybe the question's worded, like, it's definitely not a positive. You know, like, Kubiak didn't do anything wrong to where you can say, like, getting rid of him is a positive. Like, getting rid of Pete Carmichael was a positive. Pete Carmichael was costing us games. We went through that a million times where, you know, we didn't score on the opening drive of a game for, like, 16 weeks or something. We were just terrible in the red zone. Like, all these things were there. They were all obviously Carmichael's fault. And Kubiak, you could even say like Kubiak got a lot out of Taysom Hill. You know, Taysom Hill was one of those guys who was kind of floundering with Carmichael because Carmichael didn't have the vision or the creativity to, you know, Carmichael couldn't draw a play in a pencil store. But you got Kubiak found a way to unlock Taysom while unlocking everybody else in this brand new offense. And I don't think he gets enough credit for. I mean, honestly, like you step back, you look at it, it's like, okay, you got the absolute maximum out of Talise Fuaga, got the max out of Alvin Kamara, got the max out of Taysom Hill, got the max out of Trevor Penning. And it's like, damn, I mean, you could even say you got the max out of Spencer Rattler. And it's like, man, I mean, everything he touched kind of was successful as far as like the micro stuff that he actually has control over. I understand, you know, points per game, the record, things like that. Like, we're not in his favor, but, and maybe I'm seeing things through rose-colored glasses, but I think Kubiak, if you look at the whole picture, I think Kubiak, his time should be seen as an upgrade over what we had previously, a success for him as a coach. Like, I think he helped his stock. I think he's one of those guys who, even though he goes 5-12, even though all that stuff happened, I think he'll land on his feet. I think he will be an OC. And I think he deserves a shot to be an OC. So I like Kubiak. I mean, I think, you know, I think he, again, wasn't perfect, but if I was grading, I would give him a B. Certainly higher than passing. You know, like a C doesn't feel right. I would give him a B, and I have a sneaky feeling that if we would have had, you know, if we would have had everything, I think that could have got closer to an A. But let me know, are you going to be sad Kubiak's gone? You know, do you think we should have tried to keep him, or will it be an upgrade, or, you know, whatever, positive or negative? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next